Good morning, good morning, good morning. We're on Self Validation Friday, talking about the inner critic. Talking about the inner critic this morning. Listen, today's show, we're talking about how to rewrite, right? The it factor, rewriting the voice that shapes your power, you guys. Rewriting the voice that shapes your power. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm so excited. We're wrapping up the Shape Your Life uh, series, right? Started in Women's History Month, right? And we know that history is something that we write, right? Um, and so we start off with self awareness, right? Healing, right? How to shape your life, self awareness, healing, having some type of accountability systems in place, right? Where we're holding ourselves accountable. So internal accountability, external accountability. And then we talked about purpose, right? Having the different purposes in our life, right? Communal purpose, our own purpose, spiritual purpose, right? Really breaking down purpose. And then this last week, we're wrapping up empowerment, you guys, empowerment, how to truly empower ourselves, right? So a lot of us know the information, a lot of us know what we want to be doing, but we just have to empower ourselves to do the things that we know, right? And there's something that's truly stopping us from empowering ourselves. And so today's conversation about the inner critic hopefully will be the that piece to the puzzle, right? That last piece to the puzzle to really get you to start to, you know, move your gears about really empowering yourself, right? Empowering yourself to do the things and become the person that you were created to be. You know, whoever you believe in, whatever you believe in, right? We all have been called for a purpose, right? And some of us are not doing it because we've been disempowered, right? Because this mindset of disempowerment, I can't do it. And so this whole week we talked about the importance of empowerment. All right. So listen, this is my why for this session. Because I know what it's like to have a powerful purpose, but still question my ability to walk in it. I've learned that the voice inside your head can either be your greatest advocate or your worst enemy. The it factor isn't something you're born with, it's something you cultivate by choosing how to speak truth over fear. Okay. The lesson is for people who's tired of being silenced by the inner critic and really ready to really turn their self-talk into self-empowerment, right? So this voice in our head, this inner critic that a lot of us are running from, that a lot of us are really not aware of, because we haven't got still enough to really hear it, right? A lot of us are up all night, right? Because of this voice in our head, chatting at us, right? How do we really handle that? And my goal is for every Friday to really provide you with some bite-sized, recipes on how to really build a different relationship with this voice in your head. Good morning, Pep. Right, with this voice in your head. So our disclaimer for today is that this session is truly designed to help you identify and understand the impact of this inner critic. But real transformation, as we know, happens when you take intentional action, you guys. Healing isn't about silencing this inner critic. It's really about learning how to challenge and reframe its voice. If you're serious about building self validation, you guys, be willing to do the inner work and seek the guidance, the support, and the accountability to align with your growth. All right. To really align with your growth. All right. So, again, good morning. It's Friday. It's self validating Friday. Right. Good morning, Terry. Good morning, cousin Terry. Good morning, Mariah. Right. So, it's self validating Friday, right? And I want to just welcome you back to Life Lessons with Dr. Sheila Little. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Sheila Little, and Life Lessons is really a part of Project Life, right? The Project Life initiative, where we turn theory into practice, right? And what is life? Life is our love of self, our interactions with others, our focus and our energy. And a lot of times we haven't got the opportunity as adults, right, as adults to really learn about this thing called life. We're coming into life unprepared with the tools that was handed to us. And my goal in this project is to really, provide you with those tools and those insights, and then provide a safe space for you to grow, for you to communicate, for you to implement, right, and execute on the things that you've learned throughout these life lessons. All right. Right. So in this life lesson, we will shift from insight, you guys, to implementation. It's self validation Friday, right? It's self that as we wrap up this week, it's all about validating who we are and what we are. And today we're tuning into the one and we're tuning into one of the most powerful forces in our life, right? One of the most powerful forces in our life. And that's the voice in our head, you guys, the voice in our head, that inner dialogue that can either limit you or lead you. So today we're going to reclaim that voice. All right. So let's take our deep breath. Just breathe in, right? We've already addressed what we needed to address in our personal life, right? Did our gratitude, got our person prepared, right? Did our thank yous. And now we're coming together as a community to really connect, right? To connect. So we're going to feel our feet on the floor, um, our legs, right? Just getting present in the body, right? So many of us are moving and running. If you're at work, just take a minute to pause and breathe, right? So we're breathing in truth and we're breathing out judgment, right? We feel our butts on the seat. If we're laying down, we're wiggling our toes, moving our legs, just feeling our bodies, you guys, up our torsos, our chest, just the moment that we're giving ourselves, no pressure, just our presence, right? Down our arms, our hands, our necks, right? Our face, breathing in again, breathing in truth, breathing out judgment, right? Our lips, our noses, our eyes, our face, and then that space around us, you guys. Let's just try to feel that space around us and just get present with the presence. Okay. All right. So we've explored the stories, we've explored triggers, obstacles, and patterns this week. Now we close with the most intimate part of your empowerment journey, you guys. How you validate yourself when no one is watching. How do you validate yourself when no one is watching, you guys? Your it factor isn't about being flashy, it's about being anchored in confidence, clear, and it begins with this inner voice, you guys. All right. So I want you to drop a word in the chat. Drop a word. How are you feeling today? How are you feeling today? All right. I am feeling I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good today. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling excited about wrapping up this series, right? If you guys want to get a copy of the series, just make sure you go to SheilaLittle.com/life so you can get the series and all the workbooks that come with it, right? And then you can actually shape your life on your own, right? And go through those life lessons, right? And then have the worksheet with you. So I'm feeling good. How are you feeling this morning? Right. So, who is this session for? This session is for someone who really struggles with self doubt or imposter syndrome, right? Looks for external validation before taking action, right? Feels blocked by their inner critic and is tired of shrinking to fit or ready to stand in their full expression. All right. This is for you. This is for you if you've really been struggling with self doubt, negative self talk, and feeling like no matter what you do, it's never enough, right? This is for you if you're ready to reclaim your inner critic and really use it to build yourself, not really break yourself down, you guys, not really break yourself down. All right. So our quote this morning, Mariah said she's feeling awake. All right. You up. Have a good day at work. All right. She said, I'm feeling awake. All right. So our guiding quote this morning, you guys, listen, be careful how you talk to yourself because you are always listening, right? Be careful how you talk to yourself because you are always listening. Okay. That is powerful to me because I think a lot of times we feel like because it's in our head, right, it don't matter. But that's the most important thing that matters, right? That's the most important thing that matters. And when we have this kind of thing where we can play a character for other people, or we can show up how other people want us to show up. And then we're wondering, why can't I trust myself? Well, when you're with yourself, are you your friend? Right? How are you talking to you? Listen, be careful how you speak to yourself because you are always listening. All right. All right. Listen, I was coaching. A woman in one of my coaching programs really shared that after getting a promotion, instead of celebrating, she immediately started listing all the reasons she wasn't qualified. She told herself they made a mistake. I'm not really good enough, right? It wasn't her coworkers doubting her, you guys. It was her inner critic trying to protect her from rejection, right? The truth, the voice wasn't rooted in reality. It was a loop from her old wounds, you guys. And once she rewrote the script in her mind, her energy shifted, and she started to build the competency she needed to really become confident, right? Remember, our confidence is a direct reflection of the things we're competent in. I was working with a client one day, and she kept saying, I'm just not confident. I'm just not confident. I'm just not confident. And I had to like stop her, like, what are you not confident in? Because you're using confidence in a very broad stroke, right? And she was like, what do you mean? I was like, are you not confident in your self-worth? Are you not confident in like your self-esteem? Are you not confident in like, you know, how you value yourself? Like what areas of your life are you not confident in? And she was like, I never thought about it like that. I was like, yeah, because every when you speak and you keep saying I'm not confident, but that's just not true because you have a master's degree, right? You are high level supervisor, you work for like a highly sophisticated government organization. So why are you saying that you're not confident when you're able to accomplish so much? You are confident in the areas that you're competent in. You graduated top of your class. You was very confident in academia, so that made you confident in your ability to what to be in, you know, a 4.0 student, right? In this job you're very competent at your skills, which is why when you put presentations together you feel confident in those. You're just not competent in how you articulate yourself, so you get nervous about that. So we need to become more competent, right? Maybe go to Toastmasters or something like that so you can be more competent in speaking in front of people, so you can feel confident in that. You may not have confidence, you may not feel competent in your self-worth, right? Because you haven't worked on that. So you don't feel confident in the person that you are. So I want you guys to know that confidence is not this broad stroke. I'm confident in everything. It is areas in our life that we are very confident about because we have competencies in that area. And when I say competencies, I'm saying because you've done that thing enough that you know what you're doing. But it's some areas in your life that you're not confident because you haven't practiced, right? You haven't dug deep. And one of the areas, the biggest areas that we're not confident in is our relationship with ourselves, because we're still running from this powerful, amazing being that we call humans, right? That we call humans, right? That we call ourselves. And so we haven't really done the work, right, to really become confident in this person and really trust it. But if you're having some self value issues, if you're having some self worth issues, some self image issues, you know, some self-esteem issues, right? And you're feeling a lack of confidence in those areas, then that is a call. Remember, I said when we start feeling any lack, like sadness, depression, lack of confidence, and things like that, that's just your body saying, hey, feed me, feed me in this area, right? I need you to explore a little more here, right? And that's why the project was truly created. All right. So I want you to, if that makes sense, put a one in the chat for me. If that makes sense, put a one in the chat for me. All right. So I want you to pause, right? This is our heart check in to really set the tone for today's conversation. What is one thing that your inner critic has been repeating, right, to you? Okay. What is that one thing that your inner critic has been repeating to you throughout this week? We're talking about empowerment, and we bring up a lot of things, stories, you know, the triggers, right? The opportunity cost. What have you heard as we were sharing this time together, what are some things that came up in those practice lessons and those activities, right? Now I want you to ask yourself, what would I say to that inner critic? I want you to say, what would I say to that if it was somebody I loved, right? So if that inner critic said anything that made you feel disempowered, if that was somebody you loved, what would your response be back? Because sometimes we'll just let this inner critic just have its way and not have anything back to say to it. And I just want to empower you to say you can say something back to this inner critic, right? You can say something back to this inner critic, right? Right. So listen, this week we've been reclaiming our power one layer at a time, you guys. On Mindset Reset Monday, we challenged our limiting beliefs, right, that make us shrink. On Transformational Tuesday, we really face the emotional triggers that rise up when we're taking up space, right? When we're taking up that space in our life. On Gratitude Shift Wednesday, right, we confronted the internal and external obstacles, right, and counted the cost, right? We took a look at the cost of playing small, all right. And then yesterday on Energy Audit Thursday, we examined the patterns that either anchor us or really advance us, okay. And now on Self Validation Friday, we've arrived at the core of empowerment, right? That voice within, because even the best mindset, support system, and habits, because even with the best mindsets, the best supports and habits, your inner critic is still the loudest, right? The loudest thing that you trust, all right? Your growth will always feel fragile, right? So your growth will always feel fragile if we don't put this voice in check. All right. So today, it's not about silencing the noise. It's really about learning to speak to yourself like someone worth believing in. All right. Changing this dialogue and really talking to ourselves like someone worth believing in, because you are. You are someone. You are someone who is worth believing in. All right. So here's the connection. The stories is what we believe. The triggers is what activate us. All right. The obstacles is truly what blocks us. Our patterns is what keep us stuck. But this it factor, that's where we become empowered, because it's the thing that moves us forward. All right. It's that cheerleader in our head saying, get up, do this, go there, say this, right? So it is a powerful part in our empowerment. All right. At the root of all of this, how we speak to ourselves, you guys, it's really about how we speak to ourselves when no one is watching. How do you speak to yourself when no one is watching? Listen, that internal voice is the key to sustaining everything we've learned, right? Everything we've learned. Either it's dismissing or it's validating. Empowerment isn't just about action, you guys. It's about ownership. It teaches you to validate yourself, to acknowledge your growth, to honor your truth, to trust your own process. And these life lessons are not just giving you tools, you guys. In these sessions, I'm handing you the pen and giving you the opportunity to what? To write your next chapter, right? And empowering you to write the next chapter of your life. And in that chapter, be the greatest character, right? Be the person that you feel like you were called to be, because you can do that. You can do that, you guys. Listen, your inner voice is not just a reflection of your thoughts, it's an architect of your reality. It is the architect of your reality. Y'all know what an architect is? It's the person that designs. It designs the homes. It designs the restaurants that we go in, right? Architects, they go in, they look at a space. They're like, what can we do with this? Right? And so your inner critic is looking at what you give it and saying, what can we do with it? And you can partner with that voice. So when your self-talk is harsh, judgmental, or fearful, you begin to shrink. But when your self-talk is affirming, grounded, and empowered, guess what? You expand, right? Your it factor is not arrogance, you guys. It's alignment. It's not, good morning, brother. Thank God it's Friday. Yes, I'm coming over this weekend. All right. So your it factor is not arrogance, you guys. It's alignment. You can't build a powerful life with a voice inside that consistently tears you down. Right. That critic isn't your truth. It's your trauma speaking. Right? Listen, you can't build a powerful life with the voice inside that consistently tears you down. Like, I know we point the finger at people, right? And we talk about the people who don't support us and don't love us and don't do this and don't do that. But have we sat still enough to say, what are we saying to ourselves? Because the life that you want to build is directly correlated to the voice in your head. If you telling yourself you can do that. All right. And that critic, the one that's on autopilot, that's not your truth. So when it's saying you can't do it, you think you too much, um, yeah, nobody's gonna like that. That is a trauma, that's your trauma speaking to you. All right. And as an adult, you can speak back to that trauma in a kind and compassionate way, right? And what? Own your truth, right? So when you shift your inner dialogue, you really start walking differently. All right. You move from performing, right, from performing for approval to really living from validation. This is how you reclaim your power from the inside out, right? I say that we really lead from the inside out, right? We lead from the inside out. And when we can master, right, master this inner critic, right, we can handle it. And some days it's bad, right? Some days it's going to be on you, right? But it's kind of like I think about a basketball game where you're in the opponent's arena. When you go to stretch yourself, you're in the opponent's arena, and everybody, you at the free throw line, and you got to make this shot. And it's like, you know, 1 point down, and you just got fouled, and you got an opportunity to win the game, but you in the opponent's arena, and every person almost in that arena is screaming at you to get you to doubt that you can make this shot. And you got to have a voice. That person that is about to make that free throw has to have a voice that's so resolute, right? That they can quiet the noise and step into their power and make those shots and win the game. And it's a lot of times in life where it's going to be like that. And guess what? The opponent is this inner critic screaming at you, saying what you can do, what you can do, how you can, and you have to muster, right? Muster up like the grit and the resilience, right? To even walk anyway, to do it in the fear, to do it in the uncertainty, to move in the tears, right? To move in the pain, because what you know is what? You're a champion. You're a champion. And this life is here for you to what? Win it. Right? And that's the empowered mind state. All right. A client once told me, I realized my inner critic was just the voice of every person who ever doubted me. And I internalized it. Once I separated their voices from mine, I could finally hear my truth. All right. Remember, you have the reticular activation system, which is that part of your mind that's always on, that's collecting information 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Right. And it has been collecting that information for your entire life. Right. And it is using that information to what? Keep you safe. Remember, your body is not designed to betray you. Right. It's designed to keep you safe. It's designed to keep you safe. And what's the safest space for you right now? The condition you in right now. Why in your mind is that the safest space for you? Because it's what you know. It's what you know, right? Even if you unhappy, even if it's not producing what you wanted to produce, even if you anxious, depressed, or whatever, the mind is so unconditional that it's like, yeah, I know that, but we know this, right? We don't know what that is over there. And what the mind will start to do when you say, I want to go over there, it will start to create a very dark and gloomy story. And if you're a person that already watch dark and gloomy stories and crime stories, and you grew up like Freddy Krueger, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you, right? If you grew up with already that type of narrative, your stories in your head, they get real bad, right? Like if you go over there, something really bad is going to happen to you, right? And this inner critic is narrating this information to you, but it's not your voice, you guys. It is the voice of every person, every experience, every circumstance, and every condition that you experienced. All right. All right. And it's the trauma. It's and here's the thing. What is the trauma? The unsafety, right? Remember, I put that video in and I talked about the lady who talked about how, and forgive me for people who have, experienced this, but she woke up and the little boy was on top of her. She was like in the fourth grade, and the guy asked her, like, were you able to talk about that? And she said no. And then he went to ask her about her daughters. Well, what would that mean if that happens to your daughters and your daughters didn't tell you? And she said that would mean that they didn't trust me, right? And so many of us, and so she got emotional, right? And he said to her, let me finish this. He said to her, that was the first trauma, feeling not safe enough to share your pain, feeling not safe enough to share an aspect of you when you needed supported. And a lot of us in our upbringings, that was truly the first trauma. So when I'm saying trauma, I'm saying, hey, that's your trauma speaking. That's that part of you speaking that feels unsafe, right? Because whatever the trauma did, the result of the trauma is that you feel unsafe now, right? Either in sharing your emotions, connecting with people, expanding your territory, whatever it is, right? The real trauma is unsafety, right? And so that unsafe part of you is communicating to you from every voice, every experience, all right? And then you have internalized that as being your voice. And I'm just saying it's not. Okay. Listen, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is CBT, confirms that consistent, intentional reframing of this negative self talk leads to what? Improved moods, performance, and resilience. Self affirmation techniques have been shown to rewire neural pathways. I'm going to give y'all a tip. At night, listen, if you're cleaning up, listen to affirmations. you know like for me, every night I go to sleep, I'm listening to affirmations, right, on whatever my goal is, right? So if I'm stretching myself, I'm listening to I am safe affirmations. If I'm need to communicate, I'm listening to affirmations about my confidence in communication. All right. In this year, I'm going to come out with a series that's specifically to my target population that really has different affirmations so that you can just start listening to them. Have them play in the background while you're taking a bath, while you're cleaning up, right? So your mind can what? Be listening to it while you're focused on something else. You're feeding what? A part of your mind that's always listening. And before you know it, right, you will start moving differently. Why? Because you're putting new information in unconsciously, right? You're unconsciously feeding yourself in a very conscious way. Okay. All right. So listen, the way you talk to yourself matters. It either creates limitations or, right, it liberates you, right? You want to be free, don't you? Right. If you want to be free, put a 3 in the chat. If you want to be free, put a three in the chat for me. Okay. All right. So in the stop it framework, we know that I stands for the inner critic, which is the internalized voice that critiques, questions, and really diminishes, right? That diminishes your worth, right? So I'm going to kind of shift, right, this it factor. So if you read the book, you know that it stands for it factor. And when we think about the it factor, we think about it as a coined phrase, right? So we think about this it factor as a very thing that make you stand out, right? And but in the stopping out framework, the it factor is really inner critic and self-talk. And those two integrated, right, and balance really helps to create the it factor. So today I'm talking about the it factor from both of these areas, the inner critic, and then how to make yourself become the it factor of your life. Okay. So your inner critic is not the truth teller. It's the echo of the old fears, the need to be perfect, right, and the societal expectations. And the only way to really silence it is to really drown it with truth. is to drown it with truth, you guys. Here's some empowered talk. I can do hard things. 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 However, you want to take those 5 words, wherever you want to put the comma at, I can do hard things. I can do hard things. I can do hard things, right? I can do hard things, right? Whatever you want to put the comma at, that is an empowered statement, all right? My worth is not up for debate. Listen, I'm not going to argue with you about my worth. I know my worth, right? And sometimes, right, because I live a life that maybe other people don't recognize it, I may be faced with some resistance, but that resistance, guess what? It's still never going to determine my worth. So that's not up for debate. Okay. That's not up for debate. And then I trust myself to figure it out. A lot of times we're like, I don't know how to do that. I just don't understand. I don't get it. And an empowered self talk would be, I trust myself to figure this out. I trust myself to figure this thing called life out. I trust myself to figure this financial thing out. I trust myself to, that I'm going to empower and experience life. I trust myself that I'm going to figure out what I need to do and who I need to become, right? So that I can experience my highest best self, right? So this is a very much empowered statement. I trust myself to figure it out, right? And again, wherever you want to put the comment, I trust myself to figure it out. I trust myself to figure it out, right? I trust myself to figure it out. Wherever you want to put the comment, because here's the thing, and I'm saying comma because sometimes when we put commas in places, it actually creates an emotion in us, right? And when we say things in our head and then we engage our heart with it, right? Guess what? We're actually deepening that process. So I say wherever you want to put the comma at, it actually does emphasize an emotion, right? Of what this means to me. And so I can integrate that a little more, a little bit more in alignment. I can integrate that a little bit more with ease. All right, with ease. All right. So sets this session sits on the intersection of identity and self-talk. All right. Your identity really determines what kind of inner voice you listen to. Right. So your identity determines what kind of inner voice you listen to, and your inner voice really reframes your identity. Right. So rewriting the narrative in your head is a critical step to empowerment. All right. So let's talk about this it factor. So the it factor in the word itself is the magnetic, intangible energy that makes someone stand out. Right. It's their confidence, their presence, their authenticity, their alignment, and their clarity. But here's the secret. It's not something you gain. It's not something you gain. It's something you uncover. And everyone has it. You have it. Okay? Because everyone has it, right? It's an expression of your truest, most empowered self. It's an expression of your truest, most empowered self. Listen, empowerment is the process of really owning your voice, your choices, and your values. And the it factor is what shines through when you're fully empowered. It's, in other words, when your inner critic is loud, your it factor is dimmed, right? When you trust, when you have self-trust and when your self-trust and self-validation rises, right, your it factor radiates. All right. So the it factor is often buried under what? Negative self-talk, right? Negative self-talk. I'm not ready. I'm too much. I'm doing too much. They don't think I'm doing too much, right? Perfectionism, right? I can't do it I can't move forward till I have all the answers, right? Not realizing that the answers come as you go. All right. In performance-based worth, right? And we're in performative what? Relationships, right? Transactional. Who do I need to be? Right. So this it factor is really buried in perfectionism and performance-based worth, right? My worth is based on how much what I can produce. All right. Comparison and fear of judgment is another thing that really buries our it factor in this internalized shame and doubt from our past experiences. Right. We've all done something, you guys. We've all done something that we're not proud of. We've all made mistakes that we're not proud of. Right. But we bury this our it factor. We bury this intangible energy that makes us stand out when we internalize that shame and that doubt from our past mistakes, from our past life, right? From the things we did when we were 20, 30, even up until yesterday, I say, even up until this morning, right? We can't get that time back. It's nothing I can do about that. But what I do have the power to do is what? Let it go, forgive myself, have some compassion, deal with the consequence, right? And I think that's the other part of it. Deal with the consequence of those decisions with the understanding that this consequence is not going to take me out. I'm resilient. I can move past this, right? I can move past this moment, okay? And then build a life and learn from it and do what I need to do. Listen, the empowerment truly unlocks the it factor when you start making choices from alignment instead of fear, right? When you learn to really validate yourself before looking for others' approval, right? And when you allow your authentic self to be seen and heard, even imperfectly, even in the imperfections, right? And when you stop letting the inner critic really narrate your future, right? None of us really know what the future holds. We don't, right? We don't know. Only thing we can do is guess. So why not just guess the best, right? Why not just guess the best future for yourself, all right? Listen, the inner critic is your survival voice, you guys. It's the survival voice. It's not a truth teller. It it was created to protect you. Again, I just want to say it was created to protect you. I know that can sound a little off, but it really is to protect your current position, right? But empowerment is what transformed that voice from sabotage to support. All right. So when you reclaim your power, you really shift from what if I'm not good enough to really what if I already am? What if I'm already good enough? What if I already have everything I need? Right? What if everything was truly working for my good? Right? Right? What if? Right? And that what if opens up all the possibilities. If you watch the video that I posted in the group yesterday, my vlog, one of the things was that I created this space, this word space, and it's really a specific pattern or spiritual pattern that authentically creating energy, right? In this space between 0 and 1. And anybody who knows numbers know that the space between 0 and 1 is infinite possibilities, right? Because the zeros can go and go and go and go and go and go, right? And that's the what if space. Anything can happen, right? There's more numbers between 0 and 1 than between any other numbers in the numeric system. Why? Because of the infinite possibility between that space, that spiritual pattern that's authentically creating energy in you. And so if you change your what if I'm not good enough to what if I already am, right? You unlock so many possibilities for yourself, right? To be empowered and do the things that you want. So I just want you to breathe that in. And just if you don't want to say it out loud, just whisper it to yourself, right? What if I'm already am ready, right? What if I'm already enough, right? What if I'm already beautifully and wonderfully made, right? What if everything is already working for my good, right? Feel that in your body. And when you feel that in your body, if you feel a little anxious, a little fear, if that makes you feel vulnerable, right? And you want to retreat back to, or if it triggers the inner critic, it's like, oh, she just on some woo stuff, or whatever the voice is telling you back, right? Then that is your awareness to say, okay, there's a gap here. And I want to insert what? Help, guidance, support, so that I can anchor and bring that true because we know that everything is working for our good, right? We know that to be true. Why? Because the Bible states and we know that God can't lie, right? So now I gotta believe that. And what do I need to do to start to believe that and anchor that truth? All right. Right. And it's okay and give ourselves compassion and not judge the resistance that we feel to 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 the fact that when I say everything is working for my good, I feel the resistance. Or when I say, what if I am ready for this magnificent life and I feel the resistance? We don't judge it. We have compassion for it because guess what? We know why the resistance is there. We know why it's there, right? The reason you're not living the life that you want to live right now, right, is there's a reason, right? There's maybe some fear, right? And there's that trauma, that safety issue, right? That we want to resolve together. All right. That we want to resolve together as a community, right? So listen, your if factor isn't found, you guys, it's free. Right. And so you get the power to free it. And empowerment is really the key that truly unlocks that part of you. And the world is waiting for who? For you. Right. The world is waiting for you. And the first world that's waiting for you is the 750 billion cells that's ready to experience, a part of you that you have, not allowed to awaken inside of you. And I just want to say it's there, right? Your world is waiting for it to experience this part of you. Okay. All right. If that made sense or if that resonated with you, put a 4 in the chat for me. Put a 4 in the chat for me as we move on to our biblical wisdom, you guys. Our biblical wisdom this morning. Okay. So our biblical wisdom is Proverbs 18 and 21, right? The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Okay. What does this mean? What does this mean? This applies not just to how we speak to others, but what? How we speak to ourselves, right? How we speak to ourselves. The words you use with yourself are seeds that produce what? Fruit. Either faith or fear. All right? Either faith or fear. So the tongue has power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit, right? This verse reminds us of this verse reminds us that how we speak, especially to ourselves, literally shapes our experience of life. It literally shapes our experience of life, you guys. Your internal dialogue, which is your self-talk, has creative power, right? How do we know that's true? Because the first thing that God, when he created man, he told him to what? Created in his image. And we know God is what? Creator, right? And he told you to be fruitful and multiply, right? So we understand that we have creative power. And where do we have that creative power at? In our language, right? In how we speak, right? So when the voice inside you is full of criticism, it's full of comparison and fear, right? It stifles your power, right? Stifles your power means it holds your power back, right? It's like it's like a dam holding all this power back, right? Okay. But when you align with love, truth, and self compassion, it activates this divine authority, right? This divine authority. And we know that the divinity, our divinity is what? The ability to overcome any limitation, right? That is what divinity is. So when we use things like love, truth, and self-compassion, right? It activates this your divine authority. And we all have divine authority. For whose life? Our life as adults, right? But a lot of us want to take authority of whose life? Somebody else's life, and tell somebody else what to do with their life and what they should be doing and how they should be moving and who they should be talking to and what they should be doing with their money and what they should be doing with their time. And we're trying to take authority over somebody else's life because it's just safer for us to try to control other people and their circumstances and conditions to what make us comfortable. That is a coping mechanism, right? When we're trying to control everybody else and how they move so that we don't have to what? Feel. So we don't have to feel what? Unsafe, right? Because if they move any way that makes you feel unsafe, then that triggers what? A problem. And so I need you to show up like this, and I need you to be this way, and I need you to do this because I don't want to feel what? Unsafe, right? And so with this verse, or what I'm encouraging you to do, is to really align and activate your own divine authority for yourself, right? So that you can know no matter how another adult moves in my life, I'm going to be okay. Why? Because I've aligned in a divine authority in me, and everything is working for my good. So if you want to stay, stay. If you want to leave, leave. If you want to grow and expand, go and expand. If you want to, whatever you want to do, I want to support you in that, because how you move in your life, right? I may have a feeling about it, right? And I even may be uncomfortable, but I can what? Regulate my emotions, right? Because I'm aligned in what? Love, truth, and self-compassion. Okay. So I don't need you to show up a certain way for me to what? Be a certain way. Okay. If that makes sense, put a 5 in the chat. Okay. So this isn't just about avoiding negative words out loud, you guys. It's about what you're whispering to yourself when no one's listening. It's about what you whisper to yourself when no one is listening. Okay? Are you speaking life into your purpose? Or are you silently dismantling it with doubt? Listen, nobody knows that. You could show up the most confident person on the outside. Hey man, what's up? Giving high fives and hugging, and you can say stuff on social media, and you can be the most beautiful woman, right? Dress nice, smell good, right? But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter was when all of the lights go down, when the social media closed down, when you're at home by yourself, right? In your mind, you're not a friend, right? If you can't be a friend to you, you're not really trusting nobody. You're not trusting how they move. You're not trusting what they saying, because guess what? You looking at them like they are fraud too, because you out here and you not really showing up in your fullness, and you saying what you feel like you need to say. So now it's unsafe. You're creating this unsafe condition because of how you move with yourself, and then we project that on other people, right? And so you can meet the most authentic, aligned individual, but you won't believe them. Why? Because of the things you whisper to yourself, right? When no one's listening, because of the relationship that you have with yourself, and that's being projected, right, in this thing called life. Okay. So are you speaking life into your purpose, or are you silently dismantling it, right? Because you have this doubt. Listen, God's spirit within you really invites you to choose words that really align with who you are becoming, not who you fear you are, not who somebody told you are, not who your old mate told you was, or that teacher that told you who you was when you were younger, or even your mom or your parent or the auntie that always talk mess, right? She don't matter. The uncle, they don't matter. The bullies on the they don't matter anymore. You're an adult now. You're an adult now, and you have to become a friend to yourself in your mind. All right. So let's breathe that in. Let's just take a moment and just, right? So I'm going to ask you again, are you speaking life into your purpose, or are you silently dismantling it with self doubt? And if you are, guess what? It's okay. It's okay today. We're not going to judge it, but what we are going to do is become aware of that, right? And then we're going to take a different action, right? So that's art of life. We're going to release that behavior. We're going to start releasing it. It won't happen overnight. We're going to become aware. We're going to release that action. And then we're going to start what? Taking different actions, micro actions, right? And then we're going to get in the driver's seat. And that different action, we're going to talk about it later on, is where we start to say something different to ourselves. All right. If that makes sense, put a 6 in the chat for me. All right, so that was the principle verse. The principle is the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Now let's go to our promise verse. All right, our promise verse says that no weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. Okay, and you will refute every tongue that refuses you, that accuses you. I'm sorry, right? So guess what? Even that weapon is your self doubt. God has given you the authority, you guys, to silence every every accusing voice, including your own inner critic. So you can do this, you guys. You can do this. No weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and this is their vindication from me, declared the Lord. So you have the power, what? To silence that inner critic, that old voice, that collective consciousness of thoughts and belief and experiences that will come up against you when you go to what? Expand your life. When you go to what? Change your circumstances. When you go to what? Transmute this negative energy into some positivity. When you go to what? Activate your love. Activate the love inside of you, because it's there to protect you. It's a protective mechanism, right? But it's really at this point as an adult, it's holding you back. It's holding you back from the relationship that you desire, the lifestyle that you desire, the income that you desire, right? Right, this the experiences that you desire. And what this verse is promising you is that no weapon forged against you shall prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you, right? So this promise reminds us that you have divine authority to reject every voice, listen, externally and internally, right, that tries to diminish your worth and derail your purpose. All right. You have an authority to do that. Okay. All right. Put a heart in the chat just to come in agreement with that with me. Listen, you have a divine authority to reject. And what we tend to reject, what? External voices, right? While the one that really matters, our inner critic, right, is screaming in the back of our heads. And we ain't saying nothing to it. We're actually labeling ourselves. We're actually becoming more wounded. We're actually becoming more fragile as a human being because we're not addressing this inner critic, right? Because we believe it. And so we're saying, because it's saying you can't do it, now you believe you can't do it, but that ain't what God said. God said you can do that thing, right? Right? So you can what come up against that voice. Listen, most people read this as protection from outside attacks. All right. But what about the internal weapons we have formed against ourselves, you guys? What about the internal weapons we have formed against ourselves? This inner critic, the negative self-talk, the shame, the guilt, the doubt, right? The distrust in ourselves, right? The lack of confidence, the lack of going to build the competencies in our abilities to do the thing. Your brain is a learning vessel. It will learn. Whatever you put in front of it, if you say, I can, it will. But if you say, I can't, guess what? It won't, right? It is there to serve you. But at this point, you're handing it over to this inner critic and you're saying, hey, tell my brain what to do. And then I'm just going to serve as a mechanism. I'm going to just serve as a robot and I'm just going to do what you tell me to do, inner critic. You say I can't do it, so I can't do it. No, you are an adult. You can do it. It made me think of Adam Sandler. You can do it. I think that was his name, right? So this inner critic, so the inner critic, the negative self-talk, the shame, the guilt, and the doubt, guess what? Can be the loudest and most persistent weapon we face. It can be, you guys. But God's promise here isn't just about shedding you, shielding you from the enemies out there, you guys. It's about equipping you to silence the accusations from within. We all have them, and that's okay. Okay, we all have them. We all are wrestling with thoughts of inadequacy. We're all wrestling with thoughts of unworthiness, right? Because those are the weeds that grow as we plant new seeds. Okay, but we are responsible for planting new seeds. As adults, we are responsible for that, you guys. You are responsible for the life you have. It's nobody else's fault at this point. If you any age over 30, I'm a give you 30 because the frontal lobe closes at 25. All right, which means that you start to figure things out and make your own mind up. So about 30, 32, okay, you come into some understanding for yourself. So at this point, you where you at because that's where you want to be, right? And if you don't want to be there, right, then we gotta start changing this inner dialogue, all right? Because God promise isn't just about shielding you from your enemies out there, you guys. It's really about equipping you to really silence the accusations within. You don't have to believe every thought you think. We don't have to believe every thought we think, right? You can challenge those narratives. You can rewrite those stories, you guys, and you can stand in your God given truth. All right. All right. Listen, the same power that silenced the lies of the enemy can be used to silence the lies that I tell myself. The same power that silences the lies of the enemies can be the same. The enemies can be used to silence the lies I tell myself. All right. All right. So this verse really to empowers you to be your own defender, not in pride, but in truth, you guys. You get to refute the inner voice that says you're not enough, that you're not ready, that you're too broken, that uh it's too late. You can't do that. You're not good enough, right? You get to speak as the beloved child of the Most High, right? God Almighty, and carrying a heritage of resilience, restoration, and righteousness in your self belief, you guys. All right. So every time the inner critic says you can respond and say, no weapon formed against me, including my own self doubt, will prosper. When the inner critic says, you can't, you get to respond, no weapon formed against me, including my own self doubt, right, will prosper. When negative self talk arises or accuses you, remind yourself, I have been vindicated. I speak from grace, not from guilt, right? I've been vindicated, all right? So this verse is not passive. It's not a passive verse, you guys. It's a call to action. To refute means to respond, to stand in your authority, and to align your self talk with your divine truth, right? That is the true it factor, all right? Self talk rooted in spiritual what? Power, not fear, all right? Rooted in spiritual power, not fear. Put an 8 in the chat if you guys enjoyed that biblical wisdom, all right? And that's how we wrapping up. That's how we wrapping up what? Shaping your life, right? If nothing else, although every self-awareness is important, healing is important, accountability is important, purpose is important, and empowerment is important, and they all work together, but empowerment is the behavior. In this self-validating, this inner critic, listen, your words, and if you have a language barrier, like I said, I do a 30-day challenge, affirmation challenge. Go to my website. You'll get an affirmation in your email every day that gives you new language, new ways to see yourself, right? Join the Project Life, right? And if you really want to enhance it, right, then get the legacy membership, right? Where you learn, you take the emotional intelligence course and you get the coaching, right? Right. It's time for us to take what? Charge of our life. Take take charge of our life and start learning how to what? Become an adult and move from codependent to independent so that we can have interdependent healthy relationships, and more importantly so that we can stand in our truth, you guys, in our truth and who God created us to be. All right, so let's put this in practice. How do we put it in practice? Listen, name the critic. Name the critic. Give your critic a nickname, right? It helps to really separate it from your truth. You know, when I was younger, I had nicknames for every part of me, right? And that was how that's Lisa, that's Lisa talk. I have my hood person, I have my relationship person, right? That was me really distinguishing these parts of me, right? That I knew was different, right? So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to name the critic. Who is that? Right? Name it, right? It helps to really separate it from your true self. All right. And then we're going to reframe the message. When that person, just say we name that person Tommy or Tony. Tony is a very gender biased name, right? Could be girl, boy. So Tony, right? So say we name it Tony. So when Tony, right, say something, then right, we're gonna reframe the message. So when that critic thought arise, ask, Tony, are you telling the truth? Right? Is that true, Tony? Right? Is it kind, Tony? And is it helpful? Okay. All right. Right. And then create a powerful phrase. Listen, write down one truth you want to internalize this week, and what? Say it every day. Right. So we're gonna separate ourselves from the inner critic. We're gonna name it, right? Right. And then when it comes up, we're gonna ask it, is that true? Is it kind? Where did I get that from? Right? Who voices that? Right? This is all about self-awareness, self-discovery. Right? We don't have to really do anything with it, because when we start to do something with it, that's when we really do need to go get professionals, right? A therapist, join Project Life, follow Brittany Noel, get in her. She does she also does a daily, I think hers called a daily fix, right? Just getting in some community where we're getting what consistently fed, right? Because that consistency is what's going to anchor us to the becoming, right, that we need. All right. All right. And then I did have a journal prompt that said what lies have my inner critic been repeating, and then what truth do I want to replace it with? I don't think I put that in here. And then our affirmation, right? So our affirmation for today, and again, I want you to say the affirmation. Is there some resistance in your body when you say it? Is the inner critic saying something back to you when you say this? Because if we don't believe it, right, we know it's hard to really make this affirmative space. So we're using it for language and awareness. All right. I am not the voice of fear in my head. I am the power, the wisdom, and the truth that lives within me. I am that, right? I am the power, I am the wisdom, and I am the truth that lives within me. All right. Good morning, Miss Robinson. Michelle. All right. And then our daily intention for today. Today I speak to myself with the same compassion, the same courage and clarity that I offer others. I'm going to speak to myself with the same compassion, the same courage, and the same clarity I offer others. And I can even challenge you, if you don't offer adults the same I offer a child. That's just the same way you would talk to a child, with compassion, with courage, right, and clarity. Start speaking to yourself in that way. And the reason I say a child, because I think that we understand that children are delicate. A lot of us as adults, we should understand that children are delicate, right? And so there is a child within you that still feels unsafe. We call it the inner child, right? That still feels unsafe. So, and a part of that inner child is this defensive mechanism. It is actually controlling your life. And so what we want to do is have the same compassion and courage and clarity, right, that we will offer other people to really speak to ourselves, because a part of that aspect of us is what? The wounded child, right? And so we want to be compassionate, we want to be courageous, and we want to provide clarity. But if we don't do that as adults, it's as if I'm speaking to this little child in me, right? You stupid, you dumb, you crazy. Why would you say that? Now, if you was to take yourself and you would think about and imagine a kid in front of you and you saying that to a kid like you stupid, you dumb, why would you say that? Why would you even do that? You so dumb. You just, would you say that to a kid? No, you wouldn't. But when you're saying that to yourself and you're affirming that in yourself, it's like you're replaying that to your little kid, the little kid that had already had to hear that for, 10, 20, 10, 15, 12 years of their life if you grew up in that type of environment. And now you become the adult that's reinforcing that language for that kid. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? And that's why we need to seek out the help and guidance, because we need to become aware of how to really parent ourselves in a way, because we don't always get a reflection, because we're so much living on autopilot, right? Because so much of our life is subconscious, right? It's automatic. We need like this objective viewpoint to really help us and remind us, right? And help us to hold ourselves accountable. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. All right. And then our bonus challenge for today is listen for the next 24 hours. Track every time your inner critic speaks. Listen, challenge it, replace it, and remind it. And again, if we look at that inner critic as being our defense mechanism, and behind that inner critic is our kid, our wounded self, our trauma self, right? Then when we challenge it, we're not challenging it in a threatful way. We're challenging it with love and compassion, right? Like if your kid doubted themselves, you're gonna tell your kid, like you can do it. Like, you can really do that, right? In whatever way that language comes and becomes comfortable to you. Okay. All right. All right. So here's your call for today. I want to ask you, what truth are you walking away with today? Right. I want you to think about this. And then what truth are you walking away with today? What's your next brave step to really rewrite the voice in your head? And then the charge for this weekend is to really go shape your life with power, you guys. Speak truth, walk boldly, and look, be your own witness. Okay. And be your own witness. Be your own witness. Listen, if this session resonated with you, right, and you're walking away with insight, you already know what to do. Drop a fire in the chat, right? Let's celebrate our growth together. I really need to get that. Right? Right? Listen, if this session really woke if this session really woke up something in you, and this is exactly kind of insight, this is exactly the type of insight we explore, in those coaching labs, in our growth membership, right? We just don't reflect, we reshape, right? And so that growth membership really gives you the tools and the structure, because your growth deserves more than just a moment, you guys. It deserves a container. And that is where Project Life comes in. That's where we turn theory into practice, where we build emotional muscle and discipline, and where you stop feeling stuck and really start to feel supported. And we know that in that Project Life, you get the School of Life, you get the weekly labs, you get real-time accountability, you get the workbooks, the check-ins, and then just a place to really process and heal. Okay. And for this last month, that's going for $47. So in April, it'll go up. But this last month is going for the $47 a month, you guys. For the first 4 months, we did it for $47, right? First 3 months, we launched it in February. And so for the first 3 months, it's $47. All right. And you can sign up for that at SheilaLittle.com/life. Listen. Remember, if you can shape it in your mind, you can have it in your life, you guys. I love you. I love you. I love you. I thank you. I thank you so much for being with me as you learn how to shape your life as we close this series, I just want to thank everybody that contributed, everybody that engaged, and all of that. I'm looking forward to our next series, which is going to run throughout the rest of the month of April. If you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe to that YouTube channel. Again, we're trying to get 1,000 subscribers. We're going to add a zero to that, 10,000 subscribers. And then we're trying to get, and then if you know a friend or something like that and you're in the Facebook community, listen, invite them to that Elevating Life with Sheila Little Facebook group. And we're going to add a zero to that. We're trying to get to 10,000 members, right, by 2026. Listen, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. Okay. You guys have an awesome, phenomenal weekend. All right. Till later, until our next life lesson. All right. Till later.